How did you know it's water?
Because the word hydro and hydrology means water.
Hydro is water, so you're studying the study of water.
The study of water.
Exactly. And I'm going to study water. Is there anyone who was not here for 5th grade field trip? 5th grade field trip, you did something called the Lifesavers of the Chesapeake Bay. Okay? Chesapeake Bay being this big body of water. We use this map. And we use this map because it talks about the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Was a shed some building up there where they store the water in the basement? No. What is a shed? What is a watershed?
It's like bodies of water that run into the Chesapeake.
Okay. It has to do with bodies of water that run into the Chesapeake. Right? So, it is actually a land area where, so this land area right here, the water that falls in that land area runs into the Chesapeake Bay eventually. So, all these creeks and rivers in here, water eventually run into the Chesapeake Bay. And then into the ocean, a lot of it, yes. So how many states are part of this? If you just take a look, what's one of them?
New York.
New York. What's another one? Maryland. Pennsylvania. Virginia. Delaware. And one more?
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Okay, so 6 states. Notice it has land area from all 6 states. The biggest portion of this comes in Pennsylvania comes from the Susquehanna River. So what we're going to do is we're going to go within this Chesapeake Bay watershed and we're going to go down further and further. So the first map that you have is Pennsylvania. Okay, the map of Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania has 5 major watersheds. There's a couple smaller ones, but has 5 major ones. So if you take a look at this, they use the term watershed or water basin where we use watershed. Because what happens, if you have a basin, what happens to the water when it hits the side of it? Okay. If you put water on the side of a basin, it runs down to the bottom and out the hole in the bottom, right? Okay, that's what your sink basin is. Okay, same watershed. You hit the sides of the watershed, it runs down to the bottom. So, if you're taking a look at this, what is one of the watersheds that they talk about on here that they're showing you? Okay, what's one? Nope. That's one of those tiny ones that we're not worried about. Yeah, it's on there, but it's not one of the major ones. I should have said what's one of the major ones. Taking a look at the map, not at the key, but at the map itself. What do you see? Will, what's one?
Susquehanna, the Potomac River Basin.
The Potomac River watershed. It's the red one down near the bottom. Have you ever heard of the Potomac River? Yes. Are we anywhere near the Potomac River here?
No.
So, we're going to backtrack and then I'll ask you that answer again. What's this creek over here? The Antietam Creek. And if you look here on our big map, right here in the middle on the bottom is Waynesboro. Why do you think I put Waynesboro on the map? Parker?
That's where we are.
That's where we are. The Antietam, which runs right here beside us, has 2 branches. We're on this branch closer to the east, so it's called the East Branch. Out at the other end of Waynesboro, you go down Trick Hill and across that new bridge, that's going across the West Branch. The 2 branches come together right at the state border. Antietam Creek then flows south and hits a big river. And what's that river? I will give you a clue. The name of this red watershed. Ethan, what do you think? the Potomac River. Okay, and it's a Potomac River watershed. So the water in this creek hits the west branch of the Antietam Creek, flows south, hits the Potomac River. Notice the Potomac River is the border between Maryland and Virginia. It flows past Washington, D.C., hits the wider part of the river, and then out into the bay. Is that whole watershed shown on our map here? No, only the Pennsylvania part, so it's pretty small. So, Potomac is one of them. What's another one of the watersheds that's on here? Somebody, I didn't answer yet. Susquehanna River watershed. Okay, this biggest area here in Pennsylvania. Okay, the biggest one is the Susquehanna River watershed. If you went to Harrisburg in 4th grade, that's the great big river you crossed on the way into Harrisburg. It starts up here in Cooperstown, New York. It goes south to Pennsylvania, and then it tries to remind us of its name, except it went backwards. Great big S for Susquehanna. It runs over into Maryland a little bit before it hits into the bay. It's the largest watershed in Pennsylvania here. So we have the Susquehanna River, the Potomac River. What else? Well, what's another one?
The Ohio River Basin.
The Ohio River watershed. I don't know if you remember, which I think we probably did. Last year when you were doing this, we talked about the fact that even though there are no rivers shown here and here, there are still rivers in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia. Okay? The Ohio River, if you look, is in the western part of your state, out here. Pittsburgh is out here. What's the state that's just west of Pennsylvania? Ohio. Okay? Kind of same as that river, right? So we have the Ohio River goes through Pittsburgh into Ohio. It eventually flows into the Mississippi River, the almighty Mississippi, flows south, hits the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, that's an entirely different watershed. So we have Susquehanna, Potomac, Ohio. What's this big one over here? The yellow one. Ethan? The Delaware River Basin, the Delaware River watershed. And what's this state over here? Delaware. So, out here near Philadelphia there are rivers. They are in the Delaware River watershed. Notice how this border of Pennsylvania is not a nice straight line like the other ones are. That's because that borders a river. That's the Delaware River. Okay, it comes down here, forms a border between PA and New York and PA and New Jersey. It dumps out into the Delaware Bay, which then goes into the Atlantic Ocean. There's one more large body of water that we're going to talk about, and it's this one right up here. What is this big lake up here in Pennsylvania? Okay, it's not on this map though. Okay, this big lake up here. Go ahead. Lake Erie, exactly. Lake Erie is one of 5, and what's the term for the 5 big lakes? I will give you a clue. It's the beginning of these 2 watersheds.
Great Lakes.
The Great Lakes. Ever hear of the Great Lakes before? Okay, 5 Great Lakes up in the northern part of the United States. Erie is one of them. The water that feeds into Lake Erie from along here is part of the Great Lakes watershed. Okay, that's these 2 little mustard colors. And they break them down a little bit further into the rivers, but the part that we're going to focus on is the fact that they're Great Lakes watersheds. So these feed into the Great Lakes. We have the Ohio River, Susquehanna River, Delaware River, and Potomac River watersheds. So Pennsylvania has 5 major watersheds.
Oh, I can circle that.
We're going to go down even further though. specifically to the watershed in which we live. So of those 5 major watersheds, what's the one where we live? What do you think, Zoe? Okay, we're close to the Susquehanna River. We actually jumped down in this red one. That's the red one. The Potomac, okay? We live in the Potomac River watershed. It looks like they're all part of it. They're all part of the Susquehanna River, or of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. So you have the Susquehanna River and the little bit that feeds into this Potomac River down here. So one of the other maps that you have is of the Potomac River watershed. It looks like this. Alright, anyone have it? All right, before we start talking about this map, I want you to think about Waynesboro area. Right. What are some of the things that, if you drive down the road, what are some of the things that this area, this land has been used for as you drive out the road? What's one thing?
I see a town.
Dirt, bulldozers,
Okay, there are people building on it. Okay, what did you say?
Building.
Building. Okay,
Businesses.
we are building. Thermometers, when you're using them, just as a review again, you're going to be holding them out in the middle of the creek. You want to make sure that the thermometer end is completely under the water. Okay, you might even need it halfway. The person with your stopwatch is going to time you for 2 minutes while you're holding the thermometer. If this is the water, you're holding the thermometer under the water. If you have boots on and want to go further out, that's fine. You can have boots on and go further out. Okay, so 2 minutes first. After 2 minutes, they're going to tell you to read the thermometer. That doesn't mean I go like this. Okay, when you're reading the thermometer, you need to keep the end underneath the water. Keep it under the water, turn it so you can read it, read the temperature. Then you're going to record 1 more minute, read it again. If your temperature didn't change more than a degree, that's good. If it changed more than a degree, you want to go 1 more minute and see if it stayed constant there. Okay, so 2 minutes, then 1 minute, and then 1 minute if you need it. While they're doing that, the third person in the group here, okay, or the third person in the
Jonah,
group there, or you're going to do both.
she's explaining what you're doing.
Is going to take that container that says stream, rinse it out a couple times, and fill it half to 2/3 full with water, put the cap back on it. Okay, so we have one person recording, holding the thermometer, one person talking about the time, one person collecting water in the vial. What's the range for trout? Depends on what kind, huh? Okay, what's one of them? Rainbow trout. And what range can rainbow trout survive in? 5.5 to 9.5. Yeah. Okay. Now, one more test that we're going to do, because you did it in the back too. We're going to do the transparency of water. Did you guys get more than 120 centimeters back there?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. So, all right. Paisley. So remember, you're looking at this pattern in the bottom. Black and white pattern. Transparency is how the light goes through it. So Crazy, come on up here. I need someone with a very steady hand. Zoe, come on up. Paisley, do you trust Zoe?
Yeah.
Zoe's going to be pouring water into this thing. Paisley, you're going to be looking into it.
Come over here.
I'm going to stand way back. So you're looking down into that pattern is the same time as she's pulling. And the idea is to keep the eye on the pattern. When you can't see it, tell her to stop, and we'll see if when the bubbles go away, you can see it then, okay? All right, so Zoe, you're pouring down in there. While they're doing that, I'd like the rest of you to take a look at the scale. What are the units on this scale? Because we're measuring a height. Parker, can you go get the other bucket, please?
That's a lot of water for that one bucket.
Okay, now let it settle. Can you see it now? Okay. All right, go ahead, go.
Hey, look at this. Come on, 90.
Okay, so Parker, you're going to pour a little bit in. See what's left of the little Better have a little bit at a time here. She said she can barely see it. You can still see it. Okay, go ahead.
120 million.
All right, so in this case, you have 120 what was the unit? Yep. Okay. This is 1 meter right here. There's 100 meters in one, or 100 what in 1 meter? 1 meter is 100 centimeters, right? Just like 100 cents in a dollar, 100 centimeters in a meter. So this is on your recording, Will.
Okay.
You're going to have more than up here for 3/4 transparency on the top, and we're only doing one trial. You're going to have more than 120 centimeters. All right? Now, what other questions are on there that we didn't answer?
We already answered how many unique watersheds are in Pennsylvania.
All right, stream bed coating. Was it brown, green, yellow, black, or no coating on it?
I think it was brown.
How many of you would agree the bottom of the creek was brown, other than where there were leaves? Okay, go ahead, circle brown. What about an odor? Did you smell rotten eggs, metallics, earthy, rain, or none?
Rain.
What? You said rain? Earthy, okay? All right, so we're going to say earthy or rain, whatever.
I'm going to circle both.
All right, cloud cover, without looking at the sun. Is it partly cloudy, clear, cloudy, foggy, rainy?
Clear.
Clear. Now, what would that make a difference of?
There's less shade, so it'd be.
There's less shade, right. So do you think you'd be able to see the bottom of this better when it's clear or when it's cloudy? What do you think? Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so some of the test results might be different if it's cloudy as opposed to clear. The rest of those you'll have to answer when you get back. All right, please stack your papers in front of you. 4 of them laminated. So was your creek water acidic, basic, or neutral? It was 5.5. Well, 6.5.
Acidic.
Little bit acidic, yes.